Hello and welcome to another weekly video here on Some Room to Grow, where I make all kinds of gardening mistakes so you don't have to. Yeah, I know I got my earbuds in right now, looks kind of silly, but this is a really easy way for me to do audio while I'm shooting like this. Sorry for the plane. But today we need to talk about a pretty big mistake that I made, which will be very painful to talk about, but I really try to be very open and honest in my presentation of everything that I'm doing here in the garden, including anything that I don't get right, which I do very often since I'm a fairly new gardener. So this is a way for me to get over that initial learning curve as a new gardener, and it's pretty steep. There is a lot to learn. That's not to discourage any of you who are just starting out gardening, but hopefully this is helpful to any of you who are watching and dealing with problems yourself. You know, it's always a learning experience, and by putting this stuff out there on YouTube, I can hopefully get a discussion going and share some ideas with my viewers in the comments below. So that's a really great way to learn. So let's get into today's topic. So today I want to talk about the soil that I mixed up in our new raised beds we just built earlier this year. And so I believe this is about 50% municipal compost and 30% of a garden soil mix that I got at the store. That was ideal for vegetables, and about 20% peat moss. And I mentioned before that I don't like using that. It's much more available than coconut coir, but it's pretty well known at this point that peat moss is not a sustainable resource. It is very destructive to fragile environments when it is harvested. So coconut coir is a much better way to go, but it's also much more expensive and harder to get in large quantities to be able to fill a whole set of new beds. But I hope that changes in the future. So anyway, we did just get a little bit of rain this morning, but it does still look pretty dry down in here. I just kind of dug down a little bit. So you can see, I mean, it looks pretty good. There's quite a bit of organic matter. Some of this is just from the surface that fell in here. I have been using the leaf compost that was mostly broken down and just kind of using that on top as a mulch. And that's worked pretty well, but I believe this is actually draining much too quickly. I know you do see little bits that look like plastic in here. These are biodegradable bags that were in the municipal compost. I did a video about that. You can see the link up in the corner. But it is, I think it worked well enough at first. There was a lot of nutrients in here. Most things started out doing really well. Some things are still, things are handling it, and we've been getting more rain, which has been much more helpful, getting some more nitrogen for the plants that they need. We had a heat wave, kept our peppers from producing for a little bit, and our tomatoes and some other things. But now things are definitely getting more diseases. They're losing lower leaves along there. This Cherokee Purple is done. It's not going to be producing any more fruit, which is terrible. So we have not had a very good harvest. It has also been a rather tough year in general, weather-wise, because at least here in Iowa, I saw something that said that we are now producing the least amount of corn that we have as a state since 1982. So it's pretty bad. It's been really bad for the farmers. It's been bad for people trying to grow their own food. So anyway, this has, over the course of the summer, it has turned out to not work as well. I think it is draining too fast. And I mean, it's been very dry for a long time, and I've had to be out here watering every other day, which seems like a lot to me. You can see that it has also pulled away from the edge of the beds, and that tends to happen when the soil is still too light and it's drying out very quickly in between waterings, and it starts to pull away from there. So that's not a good sign. So my thought at this point, this is where I would like to get some feedback. I'd love to hear your ideas about this, but I am thinking that I would like to add some native soil into these beds, and I have to figure out where, around the yard I can kind of get that from. And the first thing I know it will be an issue, but overall it is not something I really want to worry about, but I know it will be introducing a lot of weed seeds into these beds. But that will really only be a problem next year. We will get a lot of seeds, a lot of weeds coming up that we can pull up, and it will only get less and less in the following years, and especially if we continue mulching and growing a lot of things in the beds and not allowing the weeds to really get very big. So that is not much of a problem overall, especially when you consider the benefits of adding in this native soil. This is a sample that I took from in the garden under the wood chips and in one of the paths that I kind of dug some of it up, and it is classified as a silty clay. You can see it is mostly silt at the bottom. There's hardly any sand in it, and then it has about a quarter to a third of clay toward the top, and then the organic matter kind of settled on the top there. So the clay, I know, is the physical properties on a microscopic level are very good with clay. It's something that's really good to have in the soil because it holds onto nutrients and moisture. It actually acts like a magnet to attract nutrients that your plants need. So that is a really good thing to have. It'll help form aggregates in the soil and allow water to hold in the aggregates and also flow through as it creates more air pockets between those aggregates. And so that's a really good benefit to it, and it is this soil, as it is pretty well known here in Iowa, is very fertile. You can see how dry it has looked. This is actually a lot better than it has looked because it was so dry for so long. Here's a shot that I got a few weeks ago when we hadn't had any rain for several weeks, and our soil tends to crack. But even the drought-resistant clover, of which there is a ton of clover all in this area outside the garden here, and even a lot of that has dried up because there was so little rain. But there is so much fertility and activity in the soil that I would like to add into these beds. You can see here there's not actually much going on. I've been digging around in here. I have not seen earthworms. I haven't seen much of anything. It's all mostly kind of toward the surface where a lot of the organic matter is from the mulch I've been putting on top. So I will probably have to introduce some red wigglers, some night crawlers into here. And my thought with adding this native soil in here is I don't really want to go mixing these beds up completely. I don't want to have to go tilling everything at this point. So if I go ahead and do that, I will probably mix it into the top 4 to 6 inches, and then add it, introduce some earthworms, and let them do the rest of the mixing over time and try to really establish a good soil food web in these beds. So kind of not the best start with these new beds, and again, it is tough doing these videos on YouTube and trying to show like I look like I know what I'm doing, but of course I don't, and that is all part of it. So if you have some ideas about that, I will love to hear what you think. If you have had problems in your raised beds or any other thoughts at all, I would love to hear about that in the comments below. So thanks for watching. Please be sure to check out my other videos, and if you like what I'm doing with these videos, go ahead and subscribe with the button below and click the little bell icon down there, because that ensures that you get notifications on new videos. And I will see you next time. Thanks.